We will be talking about immigrants from Spain and how they have influenced the United States. Some topics we will cover are migration history, settlement, education, celebrations, practices, social conflicts, cultural conflicts, beliefs, and much more.
Migration history. The people of Spain began migrating at the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century. They migrated for job opportunities to get away from poverty and urban congestion. They also wanted to leave because of General Francisco Franco and his fascist dictatorship that lasted 40 years and caused unpopular wars. Second wave of Spanish immigration. General Franco believed that after the war, Spain did not need any European help even though they did. In the mid-1960s is when the second wave happened, and in the 1970s, General Franco abandoned the idea that they did not need help. After this, prosperity emerged and there was less Spanish immigration to the U.S. After migrating, they settled in all parts of the U.S. The popular states of settlement were New York and Florida, but there was also a lot of settlement in California, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. They worked in tobacco companies, factories, mines, hotels, and pretty much anywhere that they could make a good living.
Education from Spain to America. The U.S. education system incorporates new technologies and adapts teaching styles to help students learn. They also make more of an effort to support all students. Spain sticks to older traditional ways of teaching, and students with difficulties are often told not to go to college. This shows that the U.S. has kept their own education system and have not been influenced. Celebrations from Spain to America. Most Spanish holidays are also found in American culture through the shared influence of the Catholic Church. One example is Three Kings Day. Although it's a non-public holiday, which means you do not get off school and work, it is celebrated across the United States with parties, parades, treasure hunts, and singing. Practices from Spain to America. The most popular event is the running of the bulls. It has become internationally famous and is said to take place in the United States, in Richmond, Virginia, and Conyers, Georgia. Another practice is known as Holy Week. It commemorates the Passion of Christ in the Catholic tradition the week before Easter. Practices from Spain to America. Another practice is known as La Tomatina. It is an hour-long tomato fight. In the early 1950s, the festival was banned by the Spanish dictator Francisco Franco for having no religious significance. In 2009, it occurred in Nevada, and they gave full credit to the Spanish.
Social conflicts. During immigration from Spain, Spaniards brought smallpox to America. While Americans use cars to get around, Spaniards prefer walking or biking. Meal times in Spain are much later than American times. Lunch is usually at 3 p.m. and dinner is at 9. In Spain, tipping in a restaurant is not common either. Social conflicts continued. In Spain, time is not of the essence. It is acceptable to show up late to meetings and gatherings. Spaniards are much less work-oriented and less focused on the money aspect of their work. Instead, they focus on building relationships and enjoying their time without rushing. So it would be hard to adapt to America's time management. Cultural conflicts. Spanish immigration had negative impacts like decrease of the population, family separation, starvation, and loss of culture and tradition. While Americans are known to smile and try to be nice, Spaniards speak their mind no matter how hurtful the comments. Also, in Spain, it is considered respectful to kiss each other on the cheek instead of handshaking. Cultural conflicts continued. In Spain, there are much fewer vegetarians and vegans since meat is a big part of their culture. Spaniards eat foods such as rabbit, horse, octopus, and faces of different animals. Soccer is a big part of Spanish culture and almost everybody plays. Families in Spain are usually really close, and it is uncommon for them to move far away from their families.
Beliefs in Spain and America. The people of Spain are a part of the Catholic Church and rarely change their religious affiliation. In both countries, the First Communion and baptisms are important social obligations that strengthen their identity. Some practices in Spain are more of a cultural tradition instead of a religious tradition. Holy Week began with the death of Christ. It involves multiple processions, one from each religious brotherhood in the city. They begin at their church, go to the town's cathedral, and then back to their church. The original route in 1604 is still the backbone for the routes used today.
Beginning with the 1492 arrival of Christopher Columbus,
in the Caribbean and gaining control over more territory for over 3 centuries, the Spanish Empire would expand across the Caribbean islands, half of South America, most of Central America, and much of North America. By contrast, the indigenous population plummeted by an estimated 80% in the first century and a half following Columbus's voyages, primarily through the spread of disease, forced labor, and slavery for resource extraction and mechanization. This has been urged to be the first large-scale act of genocide in the modern era. One source claims the Spanish conquest was responsible for 1,400,000 to 2,300,000 deaths, explicitly excluding tens of millions of deaths from New World disease, while Rudolf Rummel claims that 2 to 15 million indigenous people were killed by what he calls democide. In the early 19th century, the Spanish-American Wars of Independence resulted in the secession and subsequent division of most Spanish territories in the Americas, except for Cuba and Puerto Rico, which were finally lost to the United States in 1898, following the Spanish-American War. The loss of these territories ended Spanish rule in the Americas.
To summarize our PowerPoint on Spain, we talked about how they immigrated for better opportunities. They were traditional teaching. Meat was a big part of the Spain culture. They went to Catholic church and they colonized